Hello there, this is Debbie Heiser, and I am so stinking excited to share this new season 4 with you. And I can't believe that this is already the 4th season of Lead Your Life with Debbie Heiser. And I just want to thank each of you who listen. And my hope is that the tools, the thoughts and experiences I share, as well as the work I've done to love myself, love others, and love the work I'm called to do, that also helps me lead a truly lit up life, will help you move into a more lit up life yourself. A few things to look for in this season. Super excited to share that we're going to be coming to you now every week with episodes jam-packed with information to serve you. Every other week, you'll hear from a guest who's leading a life that they love, and I'll be asking them to share their stories, how they got there, and any thoughts or advice that they can give you, our loyal listeners. We have new music too, and I'm so thrilled to introduce this song called Ride, sung and co-written by my friend, Miss Jackie Wilson. And she, along with her collaborators, Tyler Banks, David DJ Lee, and Chris Renee, are super talented and generous, as this song fits perfectly into the thought of stepping into your best life. To follow any or all of these talented folks, check out the show notes for their social handles. Thanks again for listening. Enjoy season 4 and do us a solid and leave us a rating and a comment to help us be able to share more with people across the globe. Now, let's get started with this episode.
You're the only one who really can transform your mind.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Lead Your Lit Up Life with Debbie Heiser. I'm really looking forward today to chatting with you a little bit about what's the difference between a comfort zone and a safety zone. And I do need to apologize up front. I've tested, I'm negative. It's March right now, but this is February when I'm taping, but I've come down with just a little bit of a scratchy throat. So I'm feeling fine. But just wanted to apologize for that up front if I cough or have any of those types of noises. But I'm really excited because I just had this recent awareness about something and about the fact that I like to be pushed past my comfort zone. I like to be in that mode, not all the time, don't get me wrong, because that's stressful, but I like to be in that area where I'm pushing against that comfort zone, going into something that maybe I have some fear about, but stepping into it with confidence and stepping into it in a realm that I trust myself. I trust that I know it's scary and I'm stepping into something a little different, but I don't like going past my safety zone. And that realization actually came up. And again, I've talked about how my ex-husband is a fabulous person. And so he's in this story. So that's why I have to give that caveat. But I realized that particularly when we skied together, I always felt like he pushed me past what I felt safe in. And that's a scary place to be. I chose it. So I need to take 100% accountability for that. But I found that awareness that I have to figure out what's that middle point between comfort zone over here and that middle section, and then crossing over into feeling unsafe. And so when you think about your comfort zone, there's a couple of different ways to look at this. When you think about, well, I was having this conversation with my son a while back about how this may sound unhumble, but it's not meant to be something that I'm bragging about. It's actually an awareness that came to me, and both of us were talking about this, that we've been successful in everything that we've done because we've stayed in our comfort zone, because we've stepped into things that we knew we would be successful at. Where the valley, for the lack of a better term, or maybe it's the mountaintop really, because those mountaintop experiences of feeling this like joy and exhilaration. So I'm going to change that to a mountaintop experience of being between the comfort zone and the safety zone, and kind of flowing with that creates this opportunity that the law of polarity comes into play, where you feel excitement, but you feel some fear as well. And my business coach always said, choose excitement. It's much more fun. And when I focus on the excitement, and so for me, my faith is in God. And I think about when it was Paul or Peter stepped out of the boat and Christ said, look at me, right? And the minute he looked off and didn't continue focusing where he was supposed to be focusing, that's when he sunk. And so for me, I'm learning more and more to approach that mountaintop between the comfort zone and the safety zone. As an example, and I've talked about this before on podcasts, I made the decision and I don't like heights. And part of that is ever since I've gotten LASIK, I see close up with one eye and I see far away with one eye. And so there are times that I get a little bit dizzy and get some vertigo if I'm up high, or if I'm hiking and it's straight down on both sides. That's not necessarily a place I like to be, and especially being up high and then feeling dizzy. So with that in mind, I've been trying to conquer those things. So there's this place here called Kootenai Falls. If you ever come up here and are close to Montana, I highly recommend it. And there's a walkway that actually goes over the railroad tracks that to me is scarier than the swinging bridge that goes across the river. The swinging bridge to me doesn't bother me, but it did when I first started going there, it did. But this other bridge, it's one of those graded steps, and then there's steps, and then there's a platform, and then there's more steps, and then a platform, and then more steps, and then you're on the ground. Even dogs don't like to go up and down it, because there's this feeling when you're looking down through the grate, you see the ground, and there's this weird like brain sight functionality that happens that gets my heart to racing. And I'm telling on my sister Jenny, but the first time we took her there, she acted like the first time I went, where we both were like hanging on to the edge of the staircase and we couldn't let go of the staircase, and we were breathing heavily and all of those things. But what I found is the more and more I step into it, into that fear, the more safe I feel. And the more I know my amygdala brain takes over and says, I'm going to die. And I can quiet it down and say, I'm not going to die. Now, same thing happened when I jumped out of an airplane. I don't like heights. I could not tell you how I got up there, how I stepped out on that little bitty platform that's not very big. It's not much bigger than a piece of paper, really, like 8 by 10, maybe 8 by 14. And stepping out and holding on to the airplane, being strapped to someone behind me and jumping. And then this free fall where you have 150 miles an hour wind coming at your face. And I'm so glad he told me to breathe like I do in yoga, because that would have probably wigged me out a little bit. And then once that parachute was hit, it was just like I was floating in the air, which I was, and just quiet. And it was phenomenal. And, I don't necessarily feel like I need to do it again. I would, but like zip lining, same thing. I love to zip line. I love roller coasters that don't have anything under my feet, but yet I've had this fear of heights. So it started for me then to realize that the safety zone for me is I have this weird fear. I have no idea where it came from, but I'm in the process of kind of unwinding this, that I have a fear that I'm going to burn up in a car, right? Like that I'm going to fall over a cliff and, we're going to be driving up the mountains and somehow something's going to happen. And I have that. So whenever I start to go on a road that I know is going up in the mountains, that's potentially narrow, that has a cliff on the side, my mind goes there. So I've had to retrain my mind to say that's not going to happen. Same thing with some of my really good friends here. Their driveway, this is the worst it's been this winter, is super icy and it's straight down. Now there's trees there. The trees are going to stop me. But I have this fear when I'm going down their driveway and I'm trying to stay in the little ruts that somebody made when it was melting so that I don't slide. And then my car is kind of slipping a little bit. And literally the last time I did it, I froze and I thought, what's that about? Why is there some kind of fear in me that that's going to happen? And I'm realizing more and more that has to do with control, right? Which also goes back to what I was talking about before, where being in my comfort zone and staying comfortable is okay. There's no judgment in that. But really, for me now, the excitement is stepping in and doing something different. As I'm speaking to you now in March, I have my first women's business event in Sandpoint, Idaho in May 19th through the 21st. You can find it out on my website under programs and events. It's going to be phenomenal, but that is me stepping outside of my comfort zone. I've done workshops, I've taught before, but I've never done a 3-day event by myself. And I'm so looking forward to it. I know it's going to be phenomenal. I know it's going to help women step in. And when I say step in, look at stepping out of their comfort zone and visioning where they want their life to be in 10 years, not just from a career or a business perspective, but where do they want that vision to be? We don't have to know all the steps to get there, right? That's the comfort zone of trying to know all the steps. Well, we can't know all the steps. And so therefore we'll stop ourselves because we think we need to plan, where in fact, we just need to take the first step, having faith that the next step will appear. And so we're doing a lot of that type of coaching. Again, if you have any interest, I highly recommend going out and registering. There are only 25 tickets. It's going to be a small, intimate group. And I'm really looking forward to the masterminding that's going to happen too amongst all these high vibrational women. Now, with that said, let's get back to having this choice. And again, looking at this through the lens of curiosity and not judgment, I've decided I want more for my life. And so therefore, I've been pushing myself out of my comfort zone. If someone decides to stay comfortable, there is nothing wrong with that. So please know that when I say this. If you want more out of life, if you want more out of relationship, if you want more out of your financial goals, you want more out of your spiritual life, your emotional, mental life, or emotional and mental capacities, intellectually, whatever it be, then that's when you've got to start pushing and go to that mountaintop between the comfort zone and the safety zone. Now, when you push up against that safety zone, a lot of times it's a message in our head. And like, I know for me, I don't like to go on this trail here because I see snakes. Everybody I talk to says they never see a snake on that trail. And I tell them that's because they're not looking. Every time I go, I see a snake. That for me is a comfort zone. For me, it is more stressful to take a walk on that hike than it's worth, because it's supposed to relax me as I take this walk. Right. So for me, it pops into this safety zone where I know I have this unrealistic fear of this, and I need to work through that, but I'm not quite ready to. So, but it's also knowing when to push that, but also then knowing and trusting your gut when you don't feel safe. Really listening to that internal family, listening to that internal little girl and adolescent tell you that they don't feel safe. Stepping back and then looking at it and saying, is it really